Check it out, 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 check it out. So, um, welcome. This is Low Key Weeb. I'm Zach, 35. I got a 4-year-old, and I'm a closeted weeb.
I'm Sean, also 35, no kids that I'm aware of, unattached, and a very much closeted weeb as well.
So this is Low Key Weeb. We went with the name because I'm not super open about it. I'm usually pretty reserved about it. You know, people ask what I'm into, and I definitely don't mention that. I didn't realize how bad it was until 3 years into my marriage. My wife saw my my Netflix account, and she's just like, she hates anime. She's like, what? Why is it all anime? And I realized that in my spare time, the only thing I do is weeb shit. You know, I play weeby RPGs, JRPGs, like with an anime aesthetic. I'm sold already. And the only thing I watch in my spare time is anime.
And for me, I didn't realize how bad it was until I met the person I'm speaking to right now, my partner Zach, because I never bring it up to anyone. I never talk about my love of anime or especially manga because I prefer to read it. It's easier for me to get through things. But I do love the JRPGs as well. Get suckered into them every time and waste inordinate amounts of time on it. But thankfully, I do not have a partner to yet discover that my Netflix is also all anime.
And I ended up starting this. It was my idea because even though she hates it, my wife's supportive, and she, to an extent, lets me, you know, talk about my interests. And the one night, I think I just finished the Chimera arc of Hunter x Hunter, and I was just trying to explain to her. I was just so hype. I was trying to explain to her why it's so good. And about an hour in, I finally remembered Hisoka, and I'm like, oh, and then the pedophile clown. And she's just like, Zach, you should just podcast. You're excited. You're excitable, and you got to get this out of your system. I have to go to bed.
And that's when he decided to text me pitching the idea of a podcast, which I agreed to because I am easily suckered into things.
Yeah, and I'm just really needy, and he puts up with it.
I do.
So today we're just gonna kind of test the waters, just talk about some scenes we like. You know, it's so subjective of top tens or whatever, and like just subjective personally because the mood I'm in. You know, after a breakup, something would have been like my number one just because of where I am emotionally. So thinking back on it, I'm like, oh, that's number one, and then you know, when I think about it, I'm like, no.
Right, or where you're at in life. Like, I have some things that I prefer just because they were like the foundations of my fandom of anime. So even though I may have soured on them a little bit, they are still personal favorites of mine.
Well, and even right now, I'm just at a point, like, yeah, I used to love horror and stuff, and it's just like I can't deal with anything that is just more intense than friends fighting. So like right now, I'm just like, I just can't. I'm just not in an emotional place.
Whereas I will deep dive headlong into the most depressing things I can.
Yeah, Sean is anywhere between just super grim to, he's like all of 6'5" and fucking 270 pounds of just sturdy man. He doesn't look like a neckbeard. He's just fucking sturdy. And it's just like, I'm talking about stuff to watch. Like, dude, I fucking love Shikamori isn't just a cutie. And it's just like, you would never be sold on that. So, I mean, he's got the full spectrum going for him. So let's get down to it. One of Sean's first just lovable moments.
So for me, this was a foundational moment of my anime fandom, and it's something that sticks in my head a lot. It's from the early part of the Cowboy Bebop run. It's the monkey virus that the eco-terrorist group run by Twinkle attempts to release, and specifically the end of that episode. The whole setup is that Spike and Jet and Faye, by this point, are bounty hunters, and they are trying to cash in by catching this terrorist group. And the very climax of the episode is the terrorist group going to release this monkey virus on Ganymede, and they're traveling through hyperspace currently to the planet, or I guess moon, to release the virus, and Spike and Faye chase after them. And it culminates, and right when the jazz kicks in, because
the soundtrack is astounding.
Right, because why wouldn't jazz kick in for Cowboy Bebop if you've seen the series? And why haven't you if you haven't?
Right, well, and that's just it. We're going to give spoiler alerts before each of these, and I'll do timestamps if you want to skip any, but Cowboy Bebop, you just don't have an excuse, and I'm not sorry.
Yeah, this is on you. They are chasing down the terrorist group in their spaceship. They've just shot off the missiles. They're trying to gun down these missiles, and just when they're about to blow them up, they open up to reveal mini warheads within the missiles themselves, and it's just a cluster of virus bound for Ganymede, ready to turn all humans back into monkeys. And it's all of a sudden, the money doesn't matter. Just try to get out, because the government's going to lock them in hyperspace if they don't get out, and they're just gunning for it, and they're just running, and they just squeeze out in the nick of time like you would expect. But my favorite part is cutting back to Twinkle and her group of, I guess she called them sons, in their ship, just horrified that they're trapped in hyperspace. And then the vial of virus that Spike slips into her clothes comes spiraling out and just breaks and shatters in slow motion on the floor. And the just horrified look on her face, which he realizes she's trapped forever. Ever. It's
real existential.
As a monkey.
No, and that, God, that whole show is just really great. But especially, it's, if you didn't know, with a lot of, I think with all those episodes, they actually did the soundtrack first. So I
did not know that.
You really, the soundtrack's so important for that show, and it just, with the jazz going, the scene feels so intense,
right?
And it's you get that feeling that's like that oh shit feeling, and the soundtrack just does such a good job of showing that,
right? And the desperation on their faces as they're trying to speed up and get out and just try to duck these missiles.
Oh yeah, well, and it also just kind of sets a tone for the show with just because it's real light all the time, but like when you really let sink in that like existential, like they are trapped forever,
right, in a space that you can't reach normally.
No, it's a really great scene, and it's just such a good setup for going into the rest of the series.
Right, because that's super early in. That's like what, episode 4?
I think something like that.
Something around that.
All right, and then a big one for me, very influential show for me. It's Gurren Lagann, so spoilers for that. It's spoilers for the end of the first arc. So at the end of the first arc, they have been, so humanity's been moved underground, and they aren't allowed to leave. There are beastmen up above, so anyone who does break out, the beastmen either kill them or force them back underground, and they're led by a guy named the Spiral King. So you're finally at the point that the whole cast has gotten to fight the Spiral King, and when our main boy Simone's fighting him, it looks like they're going to win for a second, and then the Spiral King, whose head is just on fire, the dude is just a mountain of a man, just jumps out of his robot. It's robots fighting, and he jumps out of his robot and starts kicking the shit out of Simone's robot.
And that caught me so off guard when that happened.
Yeah, I was watching. The show is defined by being extra. That is what it's about. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's almost a spoof on, it is a spoof on giant robots, but it's done so well that it sells you on it, too. And so for a show being as extra as that happening, I was still just like jaw dropped, like what the shit. And so after he beats the crap out of his robot, the Spiral King picks Simone up by the head, flaming head and everything, and like this is such a big moment for Simone. Like he's had triumphant moments. He has come back. He has taken that role of leader, but never to the extent that it's just like it looks hopeless, and he verbally just puts the guy in his place. He just says, like, hey, if you're a wall in my way, I will knock you down. And then uses his ki to release his spiral energy and blow a giant hole in the Spiral King. And it's just like, even after the guy jumped out of the robot, it just further drops your jaw. That it's just like, the set of nuts on this kid are made straight iron. Like, I don't know how he's standing with them.
Right, to stay conscious at all in that moment. And then, talk some smack, put him in his place.
Right, well, no, the smack talk really sells it, because it's just a show that you have to watch the dub. Like, I don't care how much of the sub-elitist you are, the show doesn't take itself seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. Like, because, like, the whole show is just them screaming, who the hell do you think I am? And it's hard to watch it and not just approach life yelling that at people. I don't recommend doing that, but, like, you kind of have to after watching it.
To be fair, I was doing that before seeing the show.
That's true. Sean's also got a set of iron nuts. So we're going to change pace a little bit and go with a big moment for Sean. I loved it too.
It's
Spoilers for
Bochi the Rock, which I absolutely adore. It's touched my very soul with this introverted teenage girl who just wants to play the guitar and make friends.
And it took the community by storm. I'm big on following just like anime subreddits, but like I feel like nobody saw that one coming, right?
No, absolutely do not. I remember seeing it and then just immediately coming screaming to you about how great this was. Anyways, this, as stated before, spoilers, for their second show as a band, Bochi, as the lead guitarist, could sense the vibe that, well, the vibe did not exist. No one was enjoying the show. And she retreats into herself, as every introverted person on the planet does, and refuses, actually shows some character development, and refuses to let this gigantic opportunity, at least gigantic in her mind, opportunity pass her by, and just breaks out a solo. Just starts shredding and brings it all back, just motivates her bandmates into playing better, doing everything they've ever dreamed of, and gets the fans into it. Just absolutely lights up the room. And
Bochi's just so good with you feeling her awkwardness up to this point. Like they sell it so hard.
Yeah, she spends the first show playing from the inside of a mango box.
After hiding in a trash can.
After hiding in a trash can, yes.
and so, I mean, like, that really just kind of makes this hit so much harder, because they've done such a good job of just selling how hard everything is for her, and it's... my favorite line from it is, like, she likes to murmur about her dark past.
Yeah.
And her dark past is just like one awkward conversation. It's just such a big deal to her. So like overcoming that is like, and it seems like a small thing, but it's just like, that is a mountain for her.
And it really sets the tone for the back half of that run.
And they make, even though they're non-existent stakes, yeah. I mean, non-existent's a bit much, but they really make the stakes feel big.
Yeah. Because, like when you're a teenager, everything feels big, even
right.
if it isn't.
And that really does sell it.
All right.
We're moving on to romance. Me and Sean. Sean loves Shikamori. I love Shikamori. So Quintessential Quintuplets. Spoilers here. I loved Quints. I refuse to call it anything but Quints. So it's a show about a guy who ends up tutoring quintuplets. It's harem-y, but doesn't have a real harem vibe. And so at the beginning of the series, you know that he marries one of them, but you don't know which. So it's just like a fun guessing game. And Nino, one of the sisters, hates him at first. She even drugs him just to get him out of the house. She drugs him, puts him to sleep, and then has a taxi take him home. She's just like a hyper bitch to him the whole time. And then eventually develops feelings, because that's how things go.
Especially in rom-coms.
And so they're riding on a motorcycle. She tells him he loves him. He doesn't hear, and she, confronts him to, why he didn't say anything. And he says that he doesn't hear. And, the trope is that, they just let that go. She walks away, and it looks like they're going to follow the trope that she just, lets it go, that he didn't hear. And then the next scene, she just like rolls up and just pins him. And he's like, she says, I told you that there's got to be some girl out there that would even like you. It's just like, sorry for you, that girl is me. And
and just the way she does it is just
fucking Chad.
Amazing. Like the balls.
I know.
The metaphorical balls to go back in there and say, no, I am not letting this go.
And just the self-deprecation is wonderful to add to it. Just in my mind's eye, going back to it, I almost don't like it as much because, like, in my mind's eye, she's got him pinned against the wall with like one leg up, holding him in, and she's just
full cabedon.
And she's just like, "Fucking sucks to be you, but that's me." And it's just so fucking powerful, and it's just like a character that it's just like she's just been a bitch the whole time. I didn't dislike her, but like nothing really. I wasn't rooting for her, and then just immediately turned around like, hell yeah, girl, get it. Get
complete 180. She goes from being like bottom of the pile to
just like right at the top. It's just like, I want you to win. But I am still a Yotsu bro, so anyone out there,
which is
Yotsu bro,
completely understandable. But keeping on the rom-com train, we are going to sidestep to my favorite moment, at least of the anime run, of My Dress Up Darling. Spoiler alert.
Because that was an anime. No, I'm thinking of something else. Continue.
Yeah, it was a manga first, then anime. So this whole series is about a high school boy and a high school girl that are into cosplay. Well, the girl's into cosplay. The boy just wants to be a doll maker like his grandfather, which is super endearing. But he's
super endearing.
Yeah, he's super endearing. Everything about him is super endearing. But him being so afraid to talk about what he's into because of a terrible interaction with a cousin as a child, he doesn't let anyone know that this is what he's pursuing, doll making. Or that he can like sew or paint or all these things that are required of him, until Marin, the female main lead, barges into the home ec room to find Gojo at a sewing machine working on a costume for his dolls. And that's when she starts immediately gushing. He thinks that she's going to out him to everyone in the school and that he's going to have like a just awful high school life. And she just breaks out this terrible, awful cosplay that she tried to make herself. And he suddenly switches into like, oh my god, this girl can't do anything. She is just awful at this.
Tears her apart.
Just tears her apart. And they forge a friendship out of building cosplays. Her cosplaying and him making the cosplays for her. And that sets up this whole thing where he refuses to say anything's beautiful unless he truly means it from the bottom of his heart. So after their first exhibition together, he informs her of this. Like, he lets her know that he can't say anything's beautiful unless he really means it. So on the way back from their first cosplay event, he's falling asleep on the train because he put all this effort, and he's just worn out. He's exhausted.
He stayed up like all night the night before because he didn't realize, well, the deadline was really close, and he didn't realize it was actually a deadline. It wasn't a deadline
because miscommunication, standard rom-com trope.
Oh, always.
But it sets up this great moment where he's falling asleep, and he as he's falling asleep, he goes, "You were really beautiful today," and then just the gears start turning in Marin's face, and you can see the shocked look, and then she proceeds to just like jaw drop, eyes wide, like, what's going on? Like, she realizes that Gojo thought she was beautiful, and then, oh my god, am I in love with Gojo?
And it's a great point for the show because that's when it starts, and she just gushes all the time about him from then on out. It's just like he's just so clueless, which again, it's a trope that I like, and he's just so unaware, and it's just like she's gushing so hard every single time.
And he is just completely either unaware or unwilling to accept that this may be a possibility.
Or just focused. The man is a man of focus. He's just always so set on the things he has to do because he's always just trying to do better at any of the things that he does.
Give him a bunny girl outfit to work on and he will put on the horse blinders and block out the world.
Now, we're going to stick with the rom-coms. So, Spice and Wolf is the spoilers coming up. Spice and Wolf is one of the shows that it's probably my favorite, and it's one of the few shows that's like my favorite that I don't recommend to everyone. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of niche. It's a rom-com that's also like very focused on economics or the economics of the past. So it's set in a time where Christianity is just kind of starting to push out paganism. So, and Kraft, through chance, ends up traveling with a pagan wolf goddess in her human form named Holo, and hilarity ensues, and these things happen. So at one point when they're traveling, so to kind of cover for what she is, she claims to be a nun, and she claims to owe Kraft her life. And in situations like that, a lot of times that debt can be used to actually own someone, and that she cannot. People assume that she can't escape because of the debt she owes him. And so this little shit decides he's going to announce to the whole town, because he's just taken with her, that he will pay that debt and free her, and then ask her to marry him. And so this whole thing happens, and then him and Holo have a fight, and Kraft is just a very unsure person, and so she ends up going to the other guy's side. He doesn't realize that she's just planning to help him, and he just kind of loses faith because of his own insecurities, which is something I like about Kraft, because he's just very human. He's human. He's really well written, and he's just super insecure, and so this is all happening while something called pyrite. It's a worthless stone, but because
it's fool's gold.
It's fool's gold, yeah. And so the pyrite market is just skyrocketed because some fortune teller came in and just sold the shit out of it, said that it makes dreams come true and stuff. And so the price has skyrocketed, and that is how said little shit is going to have enough money to pay him. And so in order, the thing is that like the kid has to pay him by a certain point, like by this day. And in order to stop that, Kraft is like starting to get, even though like she doesn't have to marry him, Kraft has just like taken this upon himself he needs to stop this from happening. And in order to fix this, what he does is he decides to crash the market. Now, I was into the stock market for a hot minute, and how this market plays out is just like crypto a few years ago. And that's just like to the extent Elon Musk would text in Dogecoin or tweet, and Dogecoin would go up by 50%. Super volatile, makes no sense, and that's just like the complete vibe. So Kraft shows up to the little shit to like literally challenge him, and like they even end up calling it a battle. So the day before it needs to happen, he does a short sale with the kid, and what that is he just says, okay, well, I will tomorrow give you this much of it at this price. So if the price goes up, the kid's still buying it at this price, the cheaper price, and then he makes a ton of money, whereas Kraft, if it goes down, makes a ton of money. And he doesn't even have any of it yet, so he the next day has to buy it. So if the price goes up, he has to buy it at the higher price, and the price seems like it won't stop. And so Kraft's potential loss is infinite since he doesn't own it. So if it goes up like a huge amount, suddenly, I mean, Kraft is literally just throwing his life away if it goes up. And that's really the charm of it. It's the first time you see him, because his whole thing is just he's a merchant. Everything is about pulling a profit, and that's been his entire focus. And this is the first time that he's like realizing like Holo is more important than pulling a profit. He's not trying to pull a profit. He's just trying to make sure this guy doesn't succeed. And he's also got a friend in the series who he had been talking to, and he'd always thought of him as business acquaintance. This is the first time like he's feeling like he has a real friend, and it's just a really big moment of growth for him. And it's just such a fucking Chad move to just be like, I'm gonna borrow shit on margin and then crash the market. Like, that is like the biggest dick thing I can pot. Like, I was running around my house in the middle of the night like, fucking yes!
Meanwhile, he's texting me, yelling at me, like, why didn't you tell me about this? I completely forgot about it. I'm not going to lie.
Because Sean had watched it before, and it's just like, it is the perfect niche for me. Because I'm like really into the market and following it, and I just really like romance. Holo's great. Craft is super relatable. Like, the whole series is just like, it's for me.
And then just straight up, the concept of crashing a market, just being powerful enough to do that on your own, just making that happen.
It's so fun. I love that. And like, the other thing about it is, there are so many people buying this up at an inflated rate. He doesn't give fuck all about them. Like, he is gonna ruin people. And again, it's just like such a big dick move. That is my favorite arc in the anime. And honestly, I think it's still my favorite arc. I've started reading the light novels, which hurts me to say. It's just like, what level weeb have I become? I don't read. I'm not a reader, and it's just I ended up picking up the light novels. I love the series so much. I would recommend trying it, but I saw a post of somebody being like, I'm on episode 4. When does it get good? It's not going to get good if you feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's going to be very hit or miss.
And that's just what it is. It's really niche, but the people who love it fucking love it.
Right, now taking a little bit of a jaunt into shonen territory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers for My Hero Academia.
Absolutely. Now, if you are unaware of My Hero Academia somehow, this is about a boy who is born quirkless, which is their version, I guess you would say, of superpowers or mutant powers, depending on what fandom you're into. He is born into a world of this, but he does not have a quirk of his own.
He's like the 3% or something.
Yeah, like he is the lowest of the low, and he grows up idolizing All Might, a superhero.
The greatest hero.
The greatest hero. Top tier. Everyone loves him.
He's so great, actually, that, fun fact, he's animated differently. He's drawn differently.
Yes.
They actually take, for All Might, they take a lot of reference from American comics. And so he's drawn differently. He's shaded differently. He's just that great that he just breaks out of the entire theme.
He exists on a different reality from everyone else. Anyways, this quirkless boy goes going to school, was it? Coming back from school? That part is a little hazy for me. Anyways, him and his eternal rival, Bakugo, get into a scrap with a villain. And Bakugo is getting his ass handed to him despite having a good quirk for a teenager.
Sweet-ass explosion.
Sweet-ass explosion quirk. He can make his sweat explode.
Yeah, right.
And he charges in quirkless to try and save Bakugo, even though Bakugo treats him like trash.
Absolute garbage.
Like absolute garbage. And then proceeds to get his own ass handed to him. Because, of course, he doesn't have a quirk. How's he going to win this fight? And All Might shows up, saves the both of them, as, the greatest hero in the world would do.
His punch actually stops the rain. So.
Yes. He can change the weather with his physical abilities of punching. And from there on out, he forms a relationship with Midoriya, Deku, that leads to All Might passing on his quirk to Deku, because he was also once a quirkless boy, as it turns out. Anyways, this leads to Midoriya enrolling himself in superhero school, essentially.
Yeah.
UA.
The best superhero school.
The best. Certainly the best in Japan, if not the world.
Right. And so the kicker is, though, All Might's power is too strong for him. So, anytime he uses it, shit breaks. And by shit, I mean Midoriya breaks.
He breaks. I mean, of course, he could break other things as well, but the primary things he's breaking is himself. And they go into a sports festival where they're essentially all the kids are just competing against each other, trying to come out on top, trying to get themselves noticed by the world. And Midoriya winds up in a one-on-one battle with a boy named Shinso who can control you if you speak.
Because we get to an actual tournament arc in there, and
Yeah,
who doesn't love a good tournament arc?
Tournament arcs are fantastic.
If you don't, I accept you for who you are, but you're wrong.
Yeah, your opinion is bad.
And you should feel bad.
Midoriya makes the mistake of speaking to Shinso and is immediately immobilized, and then he starts backing out of the ring, right?
Because Shinso's quirk is if you talk to him, you are mind controlled.
You are mind controlled, exactly. Now, Deku understands what's going on in his mind, but he's panicking about how to break out of it, because this is a huge moment for him, because he's a teenager on the world stage as a formerly quirkless boy. And that's when he realizes he can do the one thing he knows how to do.
The one thing he's really good at.
The one thing he is exceptional at, and that is breaking his own body. He takes the moment to break one of his fingers to snap out of mind control, which in itself is tough, and then goes on to win the battle fairly easily. And then finds himself in the next round against the exceptionally talented Todoroki.
And, like, that's, like, this is what really brought me into My Hero, is just, like, him just not giving a shit and breaking his bones. And so that was great. And then going to Todoroki, I mean, Todoroki is a physical fight. So what he does is he just... Midoriya flicks his fingers to make a big blast of air, and every time he does it, he breaks said finger. To the point that he actually, like, to break his thumb, he uses his cheek, which is awesome.
Which is wild.
And so, like, all his fingers are finally broken. And this is my personal favorite from the series, is all his fingers are finally broken, and you're like, well, what's he going to do now? Breaks his finger again. He does it again. He does it again. He re-breaks the finger, or breaks it worse.
Yeah, like he re-breaks some other part of his finger, 8 different knuckle fractures. I don't know. All I know is that
the finger gets darker.
Yeah, like,
this is more worthless.
He takes an already broken digit and just says, "Nah, I'm gonna pulverize this some more."
Well, that's just like such a lovable thing about Shonen, is it's just like I've always loved the I'm just not gonna quit aspect of Shonen heroes.
I am going to overcome this barrier
no
right here,
what.
right now.
And you know, it wasn't like a Deus Ex Machina. Like nobody came to his rescue. He's just like, I'm gonna break shit more.
Yeah.
Keep breaking shit.
This is all on me, baby.
And then, so next we're gonna move to sports anime. These are spoilers for Haikyuu. I fucking love Haikyuu. It's one of my favorite shows. I own DVDs, Blu-rays. It is top tier. I started watching it. I generally just like background noise when I'm doing other things, and this is how I end up getting into a lot of stuff. Is I turn it on for background noise. I'm like, I heard this is good, and by the end of the first episode, I was just straight watching it, and I crushed it out in a few days, which is, I mean, I've got a kid and a job, so, like, I just, at a certain point, I just give up sleep.
Yeah,
and that's just what it is. I just become a zombie at work the next day. Haikyuu is astounding. I don't care about volleyball. I've never cared about volleyball. Now I do. They do such a great job, and this is a big thing for me, of making the stakes feel high. You know, every game they play, it's so important them to win.
Yep. Almost everything feels like a do-or-die situation.
It does, even though it's just not. It's just high school volleyball. But
Right.
they make it feel so big. So in the series, one of our first years, our main character, Hinata, he is a first year, and then another first year's name is Suki. Suki's a shit. He's just an ass. He's really tall, so like he's just kind of naturally good at blocking, and he's just an ass to everybody. You just kind of don't want to like him at first.
Sarcastic and miserable to everyone.
So come the third season, you know, he has made it very clear that he plays volleyball, but he doesn't really give a shit. He doesn't know why everyone tries so hard. And this is just the end of his personal arc, that he hasn't cared, and they are up against the best school in the prefecture, And this is like, they win this game, they go to nationals. And that's very important to the story, because the third years want to make it to nationals. If they lose now, the third years graduate, they can't go to nationals.
They just want to stay on the court as long as possible.
And that's just it. That's the whole theme of the show. I want to stay on the court as long as possible. It's just, every character is lovable in a way. Every character shows growth. And the show just does such a good job of making you care about every single one of them. And this is like a big point for Suki, is because he's always shown that he doesn't care. And he finally gets a block against the best spiker in the prefecture, one of the best spikers in the world as far as the high school goes.
I think he was ranked somewhere in the top 3.
Yeah, he was 3, I think. And and Suki stiffs him. He blocks it, gets a point from it, and it's just like they do, a little flashback of how he's feeling, and then he just fucking pulls his arm down and screams. And it's just like, for me, moments that make me so hyped that I'm just like running around my house like, fucking yeah!
I'm getting goosebumps remembering that, because it was just such like a guttural moment for him, such just an instinctual moment to just celebrate his ass off.
And really, I mean, like, he's still an ass, and that hasn't changed. But it's just like, he's come so far, and it's just, I love Suki now.
Now he's an ass with motivation.
He's an ass with motivation, and there's a lot of charm to it, and just watching his growth. And for all the characters, they do that. They do these arcs that it's just, you really feel for them. I strongly recommend the show. There's a little lull around episode 9, for me, anyway. First season's good. Everything else, top fucking tier. I don't give a shit what you're into. Haikyuu is good.
Yeah, that is the sports anime to watch if you're looking for an entry point, I feel.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, now, this could be tangential to sports because it could be combat sports related. Combat sports related. But this is not so much a big moment that is pivotal to the series, and by not so much, I mean it isn't. It is not a big moment
at all.
At all. And it happens super early on in the series of Hell's Paradise. Spoiler warning, even though there's not really a spoiler for this.
Right.
It's just a super tiny moment that made me cackle. Like when I read it in the manga and then I saw it on the screen through the anime adaptation, is when they first get to the island, this Hell's Paradise that this series is named after. And it's about a group of convicts searching out essentially an elixir that makes you immortal. So these convicts and their samurai guards are on this island, and it's right when they first get there, and things go haywire. People are dying. No one's sure exactly what's going on. And they're fighting. They're trying to survive. And it's like the first real quiet moment on the island where people are finally meeting up. And the main character, Gabimaru, encounters this kunoichi, Yuzuriya, who wants to team up with him, at least for the time being, at least till they get to the elixir, and then they can hash things out later on, right? And she tries to seduce him, tries to use her feminine wiles to get him on her side. And out of nowhere, he puts this woman in an armbar, just takes her down. It's like, fine, I get it, lets her go. And then she does it again. And he proceeds to put her into another armbar. I feel like I'm just going to be quoting Chris Jericho's armbar promo for you wrestling fans out there. If not, look it up. It's great.
For reference, I didn't know it. He has a list of all 1,000 holds that he knows, and it's just like every other one. He just goes, armbar.
He goes, armbar. 3-handled moss-covered family credenza. Armbar. Cuts to the commercial. Comes back. He's still screaming armbar into a mic while holding just an absolute pile of papers. Anyways, that's what this feels like to me. He's just using armbar after armbar. And he's yelling out, I love my wife. Which is such a wild character development for
anime.
This particular anime, because he is a killer.
He's a hard son of a bitch.
Just a stone cold killer who loves his wife. And he refuses to let this woman near him at all. Do not lay a hand on me. I will hurt you because I love my wife.
Yeah, no, and There's none of that, like, there's not even a hint of him
No.
caving or anything like that. It is
Completely
just like he
uninterested.
is firm on it, and it's great. It really is just, it's a nice little change up from just the norm, and
Right,
it's hilarious.
It's such a great change of pace from them fighting and trying to survive and just being bewildered by the monsters that are attacking them. And it just made me cackle out loud, and it's stuck in my head since I first saw it with reading the manga. So that is a pivotal anime moment for me.
And then finally for me is FLCL. Not even spoilers, I don't think. So when FLCL started airing in the US, it's weird because it's pivotal for me, because when it started, I was a teenager, and a buddy of mine had just showed me a music video of it. I'm like, oh, that seems sweet. And like literally that night, I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, for it being on Adult Swim, I was like, oh, holy shit. And then it was on that night, and then so I was like really excited. And if you haven't seen FLCL, it's just wild. It's a coming of age story. It's not even worth it to explain the plot. It's just kind of batshit.
It's batshit crazy, and it's not that much of an investment. It's only 6 episodes long, so if you find the time, I recommend it.
Oh, strongly recommend it. It's just weird, and there's just so many references to fallacies. But so for me, that show has just always been great. It's a really weird, but it was a feel-good show for me. And the whole soundtrack was done by a local band. They decided to do this, a more localized band. Everything actually about the show is localized, but it's by the Pillows. And anytime, there's problems, well, obviously there's problems, but anytime like shit's serious, and then he starts being in save the day mode, a song called Little Busters plays, and that song is just my zen, because it's just the song itself, and then especially where it's placed in the anime, it feels like everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
When I'm having a bad day, I just listen to it, because it's just that song that it's just, they've overcome everything. They're finishing the fight, like they're about to win, and it's just everything is okay now.
And even without the context of the anime, that song and their entire discography slaps.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't listen to much anime music except for the entire Naruto soundtrack. Cough, cough. But but like the Pillows, I just listen to them regularly. They're a stellar band, and the whole soundtrack is just amazing.
It's up there with Cowboy Bebop for me.
Oh yeah, same here. And again, just Little Busters is everything's going to be okay. No matter how bad my day is, I know everything will be okay.
And isn't that what we all strive for?
That's all we strive for. So that's it for today. I guess it's time to turn over your waifu pillows, lock your manga where no one can see them, and we'll catch you guys next time.